Hi, Annie.
I'm actually in New Mexico at this moment. I'm not in Croatia. But I have been passionate about alternative assessment for a long time, and I was really excited to see that I could link it to creating global citizens. Alternative assessment is hopefully slowly and steadily becoming more common, and opposed to the standardized testing, which has just become a craze throughout the world, starting with kindergarten. And you can also use it in addition to whatever testing that your administration requires. It's holistic, it's formative rather than summative, and it's ongoing. And you can gear it uniquely to each learner and to each class that you have. The key thing is that it's teacher generated, it's flexible, and the assessment content matches the instruction content. So you're not using someone else's test to show what your learners have learned and what they can do. And what I really like is that there's creativity for the learner throughout the project, throughout the assessment. Next slide. Oh, I do that. Okay. So one reason that I'm passionate about alternative assessment is that I started out my life in primary school without grades. I was really lucky to have teachers who wrote descriptive paragraphs about each student. So that lasted for the first 6 years of my educational experience. Then in 7th grade, I had letters, 7th and 8th grade. In high school, we had numbers from 1 through 5, with 1 being the highest. And when I went to college, by the 2nd year, everything was pass-fail. And my graduate program was also pass-fail. So I felt throughout my educational experience that not having grades and not being compared to other people in a kind of in a scale has been very positive. It's been a very positive experience. Sometimes in some countries that I've worked in, the students were very resistant to anything but what they knew. And they didn't feel that they could be objective about their peers. But I found that if I said, okay, let's just try it, and if you like it, we'll continue. If you don't, we'll talk about it, and we don't have to do it again. But the piece that I think is really important is to start from the beginning with everyone creating the criteria, the assessment. So the learners are involved in making the rubrics or whatever you're using to assess. So they know before they even start how they're going to be assessed. So you've got self, peer, group, the outcome, whether it's a project or a portfolio, and the teacher all in the mix. So this gives a much more holistic view of what your learners have achieved, what knowledge they can apply, and what skills they're already using. It always seemed to me that you get a number, you could see where some students were working really hard and they were coming up from maybe a really low level, and then other students were just kind of cruising along. And it seemed to me there always needed to be something else besides a number that showed how much effort someone's making. And for me, alternative assessment does that. So the global citizen skills of self-awareness, emotional self-regulation, and critical thinking are stimulated by self-assessment. So you need to have some awareness of your own strengths and challenges, and you need to start thinking about how you can use that to enhance your own learning. So those are all global citizen skills. And then with peer assessment, it seemed to me that in classes, everybody knew who was really working hard and who was just kind of sliding along. And so even though students say, oh, we couldn't be objective about our friends, they do really know what's going on. They do really know who's working hard. And so they need to communicate with each other, and there's some critical thinking involved here again to assess your peer. So if you have some group activities, which I'm sure you do, there's the dynamics of the group. Like, how do they work together? How do they collaborate? So each individual and each group member then needs to think about how they've been working together. So these also are global citizen skills that they need to use in assessing how they work together to create something. And then, of course, there's the project, the portfolio, whatever the outcome is that you're assessing, thinking about how did we do in creating this? So once again, you've got communication and collaboration involved. So there's the actual work that was done to make the project. And then there's the collaboration and thinking about how did we do? Like, how did we work together on this? How creative were we? Did we answer the assignment? Did we do something over and above the assignment? And of course, the teacher's in the mix. So I hope you like this little apple picture. Intercultural competence I took as thinking about each learner bringing their own personal culture into the classroom, and that the teacher can see the overview as better than perhaps, see the bigger picture better than the individual students themselves. So this wraps up the assessment package with the teacher and her input. So what does success look like for alternative assessment? So it starts with the learners creating the criteria for the assessment. Then you've got these 5 elements all involved: self, peer, group, project, and teacher. So you've got this really beautiful, large picture from so many different perspectives of how the skills that have been taught in the class are being applied. And the important piece also is to reflect on the whole process. So particularly if you're starting out for the first time, it's not going to be so easy. There's going to be resistance, and like anything new that you try, it takes some practice. So you want to reflect on the process. How did all the assessment work? Are there pieces that you'd like to shift? Would you like to change the way the criteria was made, or some of the criteria, or some of the weights of the criteria? And is there anything you want to take away or add? Your learners are thinking about how their experience was, and you want to evaluate the entire assessment to improve it the next time. So you can see that the skills required for successful alternative assessment are the same skills for creating global citizens. I found this very exciting. So you can see in the list, there's communication and collaboration, creativity and critical thinking, intercultural competence and citizenship. Citizenship wasn't really included, but it's in the list. Emotional self-regulation and well-being. And I didn't include the digital literacies, but if you are using an online portal or some other computerized aspect to record, that would also be included. So you can see that alternative assessment and creating global citizens can work hand in hand. And for me, I'm really excited to link those skills because it's a way to strengthen the value of alternative assessment and also support a paradigm shift of education to being learning and learner-centered. So I was really happy to be able to do this presentation and find out that alternative assessment and creating global citizens had the same shared skills. Thank you.